This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town on the Tombigbee River called Columbus, and I write about some of the surrounding communities in the county and in adjoining counties. Today's episode is the 1829 murder for hire. On December 2nd, 1829, Colonel Thomas Townsend, a landowner in present-day Lowndes County, approached Justice of the Peace Bartlett Sims to report that Gustavus Hendrick, another planter, was plotting Townsend's death. Townsend tells Sims that at Silas McBee's house, the house of a kinsman of Sims's own wife and one of the oldest homes in the community, that Townsend's death had been plotted. Townsend continued his tale and told that Hendrick had approached a William Bray, quote, the Frenchman, to ask him to kill the men who owned the farms on either side of his holdings, Thomas Townsend and Alexander Carter. All three men were land grant recipients, presumably for service in the War of 1812. All three, including Hendrick, lived on the east side of the Tombigbee River, near the present-day Alabama border along the Luxapalila. Hendrick was born in Charlotte County, Virginia, in 1775 to Gustavus Hendrick Sr. Hendrick Jr. would go first to Anson, North Carolina, and then would move to Georgia, where he married his niece, Elizabeth Jane Keeling Hendrick. Yes, you heard that right. He married his own niece. And then he would buy land in Dallas, Alabama, as well as in Lowndes County, where he built his home and began to raise his children. 5 of Hendrick's children, 7 children, were born in Lowndes County. On the 2nd of December, 1829, Gustavus Hendrick was charged with attempting to hire William Bray to murder Alex Carter and Thomas Townsend on November 26, 1829, at Silas McBee's house, Liberty Hall, in exchange for $250 and 2 unnamed slaves, it was alleged. Gustavus was ordered to be arrested and held on a $5,000 bond, an excessive amount in 1829 in the backwoods of Mississippi. According to the testimony on 3 December 1829, Hendrick asked the Frenchman if the French were a bloodthirsty lot, since there were so many murders in New Orleans, and Bray was presumably from New Orleans. Hendrick was also alleged to have instructed Bray to go to Colonel Thomas Townsend's house when Hendrick would signal the go-ahead, and then to call Townsend out of his house and kill him. Then he was to go to Carter's house and do the same, and then, quote, quit the country immediately. Allegedly, according to Townsend's or Bray's testimony, the origin of the testimony is unclear from the available court documents. Before doing the deed, Bray was to go to Hendrick's house in a week or so to make the final plans for these murders. But according to Bray or Townsend, via Sims's court papers, Hendrick changed his mind, apparently, after talking to his wife, and instructed Bray to never speak of the plan again. Hendrick was not convicted, and all members continued to coexist, albeit not amicably, in Columbus for a while. In April of 1831, Gustavus Hendrick was taken back to court, this time by his overseer, William B. Hendrick, for non-payment of wages. In June of 1832, Gustavus Hendrick requested a new trial, as he had to hire someone to cover for his overseer after he went on a 2-month leave. The overseer went on a 2-month leave, and that the interim overseer could finally come back to town then for testimony. Before that case could go back to court, Gustavus Hendrick was murdered by 2 of his own slaves, George and Squire. The 2 enslaved men buried Hendrick 300 yards from his home in a shallow grave in a swamp nearby. George and Squire were hunted down and captured and hanged by a quickly deputized local group of white men from that part of the county. It was the first public execution in Lowndes County. Thomas Townsend would go on to live another 30 years and died in 1860 and is buried between his two late wives in Friendship Cemetery. Alexander Carter is not as easily located. It is presumed he left the county. William Bray is also buried in Columbus at Friendship Cemetery next to his wife. It is not clear where Gustavus Hendrick is buried. However, several of his children are buried in a family plot in Friendship Cemetery. His wife would remarry several years later in 1834 to William Duncan, another planter, and they had a son named Edward Duncan in 1836. Gustavus and Elizabeth's son, Early Hendrick, is the builder and early owner of the antebellum home, what is the present-day Kenneth Gatchell home on College Street in downtown Columbus, Mississippi. I want to thank you for coming along with me on this episode of the Tombigbee Tales. If you want to learn more about the court cases involved in this murder, you can look them up in the Lantern Project through the Mississippi State's website. You can also look them up through the Lowndes County Library's website, or if you want to see the actual documents of the case, you can go into the Lowndes County Library and visit at the archives there, and they will be happy to assist you in handling some of these original documents and doing your own research. Again, my name is Shannon Evans, and I want to thank you for coming to the Tombigbee Tales. Until next time.